10th talk series for phase 4. And on that note, I would like to call Ms. Sheetal Rastogi, Director and Co-founder Finovista. And giving a brief bio, Ms. Sheetal holds over 16 years of experience in developing strategy and execution roadmaps for new businesses initiative in retail with a focus on consumer experience. She has a diverse background of working with leading firms in banking and finance, manufacturing, and specialty retail. At Finovista, she has been instrumental in leading various research, outreach, and capacity building initiatives. She has also been instrumental in planning grassroots training initiatives for livelihood creation. Sheetal firmly believes that women leadership in the clean cooking sector is the key to accelerate this transition. When women become advocates, entrepreneurs, and decision makers in clean cooking, they drive real, long-lasting changes in their communities. She is the mentor for 2023 and 25 Women in Clean Cooking Mentoring Program, a collaborative initiative by the CCA, SC for All, and GWNet. She has also been recognized as Energy Dozen 2024, an initiative by FSR Global and EU Chambers in India that spotlights 12 women in energy sector in India. Ma'am, please.
Thank you, Nay. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Thank you. Welcome all to this session. And it's my privilege to welcome you in the talk series. We are already in the 4th phase of this talk series. Before I start, I would like to introduce that Finovista has been working under the initiative of clean cooking for a couple of years now. This talk series is an initiative that we have collaborated under the work that we are doing as MECS India partners since 2020. And we've developed this platform as a prominent webinar platform, which talks about critical aspects related to the transition to modern fuels for cooking needs. And very happy to share that we've already conducted 4 phases of such webinar series, and we are already in the 4th phase, I would say the final phase, and we are conducting this 10th session. A little intro about the MECS program, which has been at the forefront of enabling the transition to clean cooking in India, especially focus on electric cooking. MECS is Modern Energy Cooking Services Program. It is an 11-year research program which is funded by UK Aid FCDO, and it focuses on accelerating the transition from biomass to genuinely clean cooking. And Finovista has been the in-country partner and has looked at multiple aspects under this program to enable this transition, right from looking at policy, research to actually fill up the gaps to support this policy, gaps in supply chain and working with an array of the clean cooking Indian manufacturers. We've also looked a lot in terms of the capacity building and the implementation challenges on ground. And I think today's discussion is one of a very interesting discussion in terms of an assessment of multiple technologies in electric cooking that we'll be taking up further. Next slide. So for those of us who've joined this session for the first time and have recently started to work on the area of clean cooking, just to give you a brief snapshot that how big the problem of cooking with traditional fuel is. And the research says that 2.1 billion people still globally lack access for cooking, and they are still cooking with traditional fuels. and what is the cost of this activity, the cost of inaction, and the cost of cooking with these primary technology is both in terms of the health impacts, both in terms of the lost productivity, and also in terms of the issues that arise in terms of the climate change. And the problem becomes even bigger in terms of that. And I think it would not be correct to say that India has not been leading the charge in terms of solving this problem. India has introduced the program of LPG, and now, in fact, also aggressively pushing the program for PNG connection, and has been on the forefront globally to solve this challenge. 330 million households currently in India hold the LPG connections, and we have 16.2 million households which have PNG connections. But still, when we talk about access versus usage, 33% of the households still in India rely for their primary cooking needs on traditional fuels. And therefore, the problem still remains quite a big. And next slide. India has also taken a lot of initiatives in terms of accelerating the uptake for electric cooking and solar-based cooking. And some of these initiatives have had a very deep impact in terms of the policy, and also in terms of launching national scale programs. Like one of the key initiatives of ESL's National Efficient Cooking Program aims to accelerate the adoption of clean cooking at the households and both at the institutional levels. And we've also seen that there has been a shift in terms of looking at standards and labelings, where BE has last year announced the labels for induction cooktop, and which are going to be coming in the mandatory phase very soon. We've also seen a very important report coming out from Niti Aayog very recently, which talks about the importance of electric cooking and a full scale scenario of how we are looking at a clear pathway for net zero when India has to achieve net zero by 2030 and 2070. What is the progress that India needs to make in terms of electric cooking penetration? Next slide. However, it is very important that in context of today's session that we also talk about the recent situation that has emanated with respect to the crisis for LPG, where it has created bottlenecks. And it won't be very surprising to understand that this bottleneck has actually impacted a lot of the Indian citizens, with India being one of the largest importers of LPG, and being heavily dependent of for LPG on the international in terms of the import demand. And also this is actually impacted both the supply chain and the cost for LPG. We've seen examples where there has been a 3x, 4x rise in prices for the LPG. And it's very also surprising to know that this has actually led to a great impact on the bottom of pyramid. We've seen that there has been news in terms of a lot of people migrating to their native towns, because in the cities, in tier 1 cities, the prices of LPGs has risen by that much. It's also affected a lot in terms of the commercial demand for LPG, where we've seen that what's been the impact at hotels and eateries, whether they downsizing the menus, whether many restaurants opting out in terms of closing shops. And we've also seen that there has been an impact in terms of increases the prices of these menus at the restaurants. And also there was news in terms that many restaurants have actually now just focusing on dishes which can be prepared, on a quicker basis rather than long boiling or long frying dishes, just to reduce the cost and reduce the impact in terms of their operations. And I think in this entire situation, one thing has come out, very clearly, that e-cooking has been looked at one of natural alternatives, where we've seen that there has been an increase in terms of the sales of electric cooking devices, specifically when we talk about induction cooktops, infrared cooktops, and we've also seen that kind of a demand being risen in terms of other devices which are used for specialty cookings like electric pressure cookers, rice cookers, etc. And the same kinds of feedbacks we are getting in terms of the people who are engaged in the distribution and supply chain for these kinds of devices. And we've also seen many brands in the Indian market, respond to this opportunity by promoting their electric cooking range. Next slide. But it's also very important to understand that when people are making these natural choices, and in fact, policymakers are planning in terms of long-term initiatives for establishing the supply chains for electric cooking devices, is do we have only one device? Most of the people, specifically in India, think that when we say electric cooking, we mean induction cooktops. So, maybe it's about the awareness, maybe it's about the fact that these devices have not been, widely tested in the market, or in terms of, there being a special use, but electric cooking is much beyond induction cooktops. And specifically, when we talk about in the context of India, it becomes very important that we need to understand that there is a very, very wide range of cuisine that we are talking about. We need to look at the disparity. We have highlighted this in multiple studies that the Indian cuisine, there are changes when we move 100 kilometers, and the cuisine changes, and therefore there is a wide diversity in the daily meals that people consume. And specifically in the context of India, it is important because we are consuming hot cooked meals, and therefore cooking as an activity becomes very important. And when we are talking about answering this diversity of cooking, the cooking techniques are also very diverse, and therefore we see a very diverse mix of boiling, steaming, sauteing, and deep frying, and other processes, roti puffing, pressure cooking, which take place in the Indian households on a daily basis. And to cater to this kind of diversity in cuisine, of course, when we talk about cookware, we need to also acknowledge the fact that since there is diversity in cooking, since there is diversity in the meals that we are consuming, the kind of cookware that the households have in India is also very, very diverse. And it also presents a very big opportunity and a market size for the cookware itself, which, and we've seen a very natural progression in terms of India, starting with mud pots and clay pots, moving into a whole zone of metallic cookwares, to introducing of non induction based cookware. So there has been a very not natural progression in terms of the choices, and it also depends upon the kind of household that we are talking about, and the trends of urbanization which are there in those households. Next slide. This is just to give you a glimpse that a lot of us in this session are not from India. Just to give you an understanding about the diversity of the cookware that I talked about, how we have very specific cookwares for each and every requirement that we have. And some of these are like these deep, these woks. We have tawas, which is very important in terms of roti puffing. Then we have these deep handis, which are used for cooking large pots of rice, biryanis, and pulao. We have pressure cookers, which supports the Indian households for the daily pressurization needs. Next slide. And in the same way, we have like these deep pots, we have frying pans, and it's very important to note that the materials of these, these different cookwares also changes. So it is not necessarily that, in every category you would have different materials which will be prevalent, and different households would have those kinds of materials. And then there are these specialty cookwares like we have appam maker or idli maker, which is specifically used for a part of the cuisine and in specific regions. Next slide. So today, when we come on to this multi-fuel study, we would be looking specifically at four different electric cooking technologies. We start with induction cooktops. We've tested infrared cooktops, which, of course, the speaker is going to talk about in detail, but it is just to share with a lot of the people over here that when we talk about infrared cooktops, we, often the issues with the induction that only the steel vessels and induction friendly vessels can work. And, the households are actually restricted in terms of adopting the induction cooktops. They have to change a lot of their cookware. That kind of, challenge is addressed by infrared cooktops because it supports all kinds of materials. The model that you see on your screen supports flat bottom cooktops, and it also comes with like a grill which can support roti puffing in the same seamless manner in which it happens on LPG. Then we have electric pressure cooker, one of the most energy efficient device. And in India's scenario specifically, we all know that pressure cooking is very, very prominent in our households. And since the times of 1960s and 70s, we've been using pressure cookers for addressing to all the long boil needs. And now the pressure cookers have very, very very closely integrated with the Indian kitchens, where a lot of this saute, pressure cooking, boiling, a lot of these processes have shifted to pressure cooking. And electric deep fryers, this was a very unique device which has been tested in this multi-fuel study, where we are going to look at this specific device of how deep frying, because that's one of the key processes in Indian cuisine when we are looking at the daily menus for Indian households, as well as the small eateries and joints. Next slide. So therefore, the speaker who's going to be talking about the findings from multi-fuel study is going to comprehensively share with you the findings that have come up, because this study presents a very good framework in terms of understanding that how cost, how efficiency, usability, taste, time, and user experience, when combined together, what is the outcome when we look at each of these different devices. And the findings also give us an idea about when we are talking about a particular user adapting to an electric cooking technologies, it's not only about the cost, it is not only about one single aspect, but it is about mitigating the challenges that the user will face in terms of that adaptation, and how people cannot change their habits overnight. And therefore it is also important to look at these devices from the point that how we can actually lower down these adaptation barriers for the consumers. Next slide. So today, we'll be sharing the details of the multi-fuel study, but we also thought of highlighting some of the recent research works that we have very recently completed. Specifically, it becomes important because we are talking about MECS program. Under this initiative, this report of wide-ranging review of India's journey towards electric cooking, it's basically a very comprehensive review that not only talks about the policy landscape, it talks about comprehensively about the sectors, the different sectors of users and the kinds of opportunities that is there in different sectors. It gives you a very comprehensive understanding about the cost perspectives, the different models which are available, and it talks about a lot of the initiatives which are active on the ground. And it so therefore it becomes very important, specifically at this time. I think this entire piece of work gives a very comprehensive review of what's the progress that has happened in the past couple of years in India, and how the entire narrative about electric cooking has shaped up in the past couple of years, and the kind of strategy that we should look forward to. So I think it's already a published report. The team will share a link with you. And there's also an article about the gender work under clean cooking that has been implemented at the grassroots levels in India. And it's a very important article to actually highlight that how when women are made a part of the entire value chain of clean cooking, what is the kind of impact that gives. So we'll also share the link to that. So I think with this, I will hand over to the next speaker. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for such an insightful introduction. Moving forward, I would like to introduce Mr. Jacob Fodio Todd, and he is a research associate with Gamos MECS program. And Jacob is a research associate at Gamos for MECS program. He has also worked as research fellow at University of Sussex for MECS, working on innovation systems to transform access to modern energy cooking services in Kenya, Rwanda, and Tanzania, and on the low-cost technologies project. Jacob is a trained chef and has worked previously on multiple food projects, including authoring the Groundnut Cookbook in 2016 and leading work on MECS eco books for Kenya, India, Uganda, Myanmar, Ghana, Tanzania, and Zambia. He holds an MSc degree in the Environment and International Development from the University of East Anglia. Jacob.
Hi, good morning or good afternoon, everybody. Can you hear me? Okay. Great. So thanks for the introduction, and thanks for Finovista for arranging this talk series session and for inviting me. My name is Jacob Fodio Todd. As described, I'm a researcher at Gamos for the Modern Energy Cooking Services program. I'm going to talk a little bit about e-cookbooks, introduce e-cookbooks and give a little bit of the background on them. The multi-fuel study, which you're about to hear about a bit later, which Sheetal presented a little bit about before, could be considered a close cousin of the e-cookbook series. So I'm going to give a little bit of background into the e-cookbook.
I think, Jacob, there's a lag at your end. So if you could close your camera, that would.
So can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Right. So, yeah, so as described before, I was a researcher. I trained as a chef in Paris and London and published a cookbook, a conventional cookbook with Penguin. So in the MECS program in 2018, 2019, some of my first work was creating an e-cookbook, an energy cookbook, recipes by themselves are hard to record accurately and to standardize them. And it's even more complicated when you have to take into consideration things like fuels and appliances and cooking techniques. So along with numerous cooks and some colleagues in the MECS program, we started to develop a methodology or evolve methodologies to try and record both the recipes in an accurate manner, as well as different fuels and appliances. So to do this, we did numerous trials, record different types of the cookbook worked on with some colleagues, and this looked at beans, specifically in Kenya. So in order to standardize and systemize the approach and build robust evidence for comparing different fuels and appliances, in order to help people within the sector make better informed decisions, evolved a methodology which is long established in the clean cooking, the controlled cooking test protocol. So this is updated to be around the cook, so taking consideration like camera phones, laptops, and new devices on the market. So when the first protocols didn't have things like EPCs, air fryers, and so forth. So to try and take consideration, you can see some of the early trials here, looking at the bean. With this, we managed to find an approach which could standardize the different and important factors. So things like time, incredibly important, the time comparison from cooking using different fuels and appliances, energy, incredibly important, and cost. Cost seemed to be one of the most compelling factors for a lot of consumers, and then increasingly for policymakers and other interested stakeholders. It's also been expanded upon in various e-cookbooks, thinking about things like usability, user experience, as described by Sheetal. So these factors are both important to consumers and the users of devices and policymakers and various others. So this allowed us to make comparisons of different fuels and looking at different appliances. So you can see here in context that EPCs have a great advantage when cooking beans in terms of their time and cost savings. So from that, there's been several e-cookbooks which are developed by different partners, different aims and aspirations, different audiences. And fundamentally, what e-cookbooks do is they package and present complex findings around energy and cooking from a range of different cooking methodologies and clean cooking methodologies, things like cooking diaries, controlled cooking tests, and other methodologies, which create data which can be hard to digest and very dense. So e-cookbooks aim to try and make them more digestible, more visually appealing, and more accessible to a wider audience as possible. As flagged by Sheetal earlier, it's important to consider the culinary side of cooking and seeing which appliances work well with different types of dishes and more broadly cuisines. Something like an EPC, electric pressure cooker, has a good advantage in much of East Africa because of the presence of lots of long cooking dishes like beans and meats, which need a lot of cooking time. When it comes to India, of course, we'll hear more about it later. There's a huge culinary diversity, so there's an enormous range of different appliances which can be applicable for different types of cuisines and different types of ways of cooking. As I mentioned earlier, which we had intended to be a document for the end user, but it has a massive different appeal to different audiences. So government agencies, clean cooking, electrification stakeholders, cooking device retailers, NGOs, and electric appliance users, or end users and consumers, have all been massively useful and key audiences for these types of documents. So just to give a little bit of a background, it ends in 22 because it hasn't been updated for a little bit, but it's useful. So you can see that they were developed as a key cookbook, but they have evolved into lots of different mediums. So their cookbook stand as have features and shows, YouTube channels, form part of live cooking demonstrations, and so yeah, a range of different ways in which it's been used and applied in different settings. The 22 is useful because that's when the first India cookbook was published, which specifically focused on electric pressure cookers and induction stoves. for additional years. Like many other cookbooks, highlights the cost, time, energy savings compared to other fuels, LPG in this instance. But as mentioned, there's a huge diversity and complexity of ingredients and cooking techniques and cooking behaviors in India. And the multi-fuel study, which we're going to hear about, builds on this work in a tremendous way. So yeah, as a close cousin, as explained earlier, or a spin-off of the eCookbook series, it's a very important addition to the canon, I think, and expands on the range of electric appliances which have been trialed in the Indian context, and it compares them versus LPG. So it's got lots of pioneering and innovative angles it's taken. So I think, as mentioned, it considers the materials, types, shapes of cookware, and the importance of the cooks and pans that feature in India. Has lots of interesting factors about the comparison between conventional pressure cookers and electric pressure cookers in terms of some of the factors which indicate when things are ready. So the whistles, it introduces deep fat fryers, some of the CCTs around deep fat fryers, which is very useful to document, and how some shapes of deep fat fryers influence how they might be effective. So all in all, I think it's a incredibly effective tool in communicating these complex messages, and I'm really looking forward to hearing Dr. Nay present on the latest findings. Just before I go, if you want to learn more about the eCookbooks or see the eCookbooks, of which there are many, please go to the MECS website and click on the page. And with that, I think I'll pass over to you, Nay, to take over.
Thank you, Jacob, for such a wonderful presentation. It gives a deep insight on the eCookbook, which is an important part of MECS program. So I would request Satyam to kindly share the screen, please. Also, I would like to bring the notice of the audience that we have posted the links for our latest research publication in the chat function. So you can anytime go and explore more of these researches on MECS website as well as on Finovista's website. So starting with the multi-fuel study India. So I am Dr. Nesat Sangi, and today I will be highlighting the main research and findings of this particular study which we conducted last year. So next slide, please. So coming on to the methodology, as been explained that in the current study, we have targeted around 4 devices, which is mainly electric pressure cookers, induction cooktops, infrared cooktops, electric deep fryers, and LPG. And these are being tested against 6 dishes, where LPG has been kept as a baseline fuel. And for this, we have tested 6 main dishes, which are very common to Indian households. They generally the dishes comprise of tuar dal, plain rice, boiled potatoes, moong dal khichdi, puri, and aloo. And these 6 dishes basically targeted major 5 or 6 cooking processes, which are very common for Indian household and kitchens. They comprises of boiling, steaming, stir frying, sauteing, and deep frying. And each of the tests to maintain and to reduce the experimental error during the kitchen cooking trials, each of the dishes is being prepared in triplicates so that to enhance the consistency and reliability and reduce the errors. Along with that, we have also tested some parameters which are already been explained in the previous slides, which comprises of cooking efficiency and energy consumption, time efficiency, cost implications, usability, taste outcome, and user experiences, along with the challenges and limitation associated with the devices. Next, please. Now, coming on to the results. Next slide, Satyam. So as you can see on the screen, we have presented the snapshot of the recipe cards. Now, these recipe cards give a comprehensive or a snapshot view of the actual analysis which we'd have done with respect to 6 dishes, with respect to time, energy, and cost. Now, these recipe cards were first launched in Modern Energy Cooking Forum 2025. And it is also an integral part of the report which has been launched entitled Multi-Fuel Study India Report. And as you can see, first I will be explaining about the stats of the tur dal. So for the international audience, tur dal is basically which is commonly known as pigeon pea. So this is a pigeon pea or tur dal which is being made by pressurizing the pigeon pea dal into the pressure cooker. And the two major processes which involves in this dish making comprises of saute and pressure cooker. And as you can see that with respect to EPC, it is the most efficient device, which generally took about only zero point 0.3 unit to make the dal, whereas induction comes out to be the fastest, taking only 20.45 minutes to make the dal. Now, when we compare these e-appliances with LPG, we can see that a lot more of energy is being consumed by for preparing this particular dish as compared to EPC and induction. And the larger time, which is, as you can see on the screen for EPC, is attributed to certain inbuilt functions which are there in EPC, like the natural pressure release and preheat setting menus, which I will be talking about in the later slides. So as you can see that EPC being the most efficient in terms of energy and induction being the most efficient in terms of time. And the overall analysis state that around 45% of the energy can be saved as compared to LPG by cooking tur dal on e-cooking devices. Now coming on to moong dal khichdi. Now moong dal khichdi is basically a mixture or a semi-liquid consistent dish which is being prepared by mixing dal. And in this case, we have used yellow split gram dal along with rice. And it is being prepared by the same method involving pressurization and saute. So we just do a light tempering, which is done by the saute process. We add onions and tomatoes and do light tempering. Along with that, we add the soaked in dal and rice, and then we pressurize it. So it is somewhat similar to the preparation of dal, but it has the component of both the legume and rice. And as you can see that in EPC, in this case scenario also, the EPC is the most energy efficient, consuming only 0.36 unit of energy. Whereas when compared to induction, it is the most time efficient, where the dish is prepared only in around 29 minutes. And the same can be attributed because EPC takes, although it is very efficient, but due to the inbuilt settings, it takes a bit of more time for release of the pressure. And the comparative analysis with LPG, since LPG is a baseline, we can see that the energy consumed by LPG is far more as compared to EPC and induction, which is 0.979 unit of energy, which is almost double of what EPC and induction have used, especially with EPC. And the analysis state that around 54% of energy could be saved when these moong dal khichdi is being prepared on e-cooking devices as compared to LPG. Next slide, please. So the other comparison, what we have did is with plain rice and boiled potato. So here the main cooking process is pressurization, where the plain rice is also being made using pressurization pressure technique along with boiled potatoes. And here we can also see that EPC is the most energy efficient, along with followed by induction, which is like fastest in the e-cooking device category, but LPG is the fastest in making plain rice, but you can see that there is no significant difference when compared with induction, hardly a 1 minute difference. But when we compare with respect to energy, it is a huge difference where induction takes about only 0.19 unit of electricity compared to LPG, which is almost double, more than double, which is 0.32 unit of energy. So this is with the scenario of plain rice. And when we talk about the boiled potato, since it has also been made using the same pressurization process, here also we can see that EPC being the most energy efficient, whereas induction here also it is the same case scenario where induction and LPG have almost the same time, but there is a lot of difference when we talk about the energy, which is like with case of induction it is 0.30, and with case of LPG it is 0.51 unit, which is like around nearly double the what induction has taken. And for boiling potatoes, nearly about 47% of cost saving or energy saving could be done when it is being boiled using e-cooking devices compared to LPG. Next slide, please. So the last two dishes which generally comprises is of aloo gobi and puri. So aloo gobi is basically a dry vegetable which is very frequently consumed in Indian household, and it comprises of cauliflower and potato. So both the vegetables are cut into small pieces, and then for a little tempering is done, followed by the vegetable to be cooked using a steam process. So that is why we have added a steaming process. But there is a slight change when we have used the EPC. So giving a brief context, we have used EPC. Now EPC generally have this pressurization technique. So in case of EPC, we have like set the device into a automated mode for 1 minute of pressurization. And with respect to induction, infrared, and LPG, we have cooked it in an open device, in an open flame device, in an open device by just covering the lid. So as you can see with the readings that EPC is the most energy efficient and also took the less time, because we have set the setting for 1 minute. But there is a difference that when we open the lid of EPC after 1 minute, the vegetable was overcooked, which was not the case in induction and infrared. So moving on to puri. So puri is basically an Indian bread which is being made by deep frying it. So as been mentioned earlier also, for this specifically frying technique, we have introduced electric deep fryers. These electric deep fryers are very much subjected to frying. So that is why, and frying is a very common concept with Indian household, and not only in household, but also with respect to commercial and institutional kitchens as well. So we also need to like compare the efficiency of electric deep fryers, and we have stated. Now, I was also like to bring the attention to is that all the recipes which are being made here are in accordance to the family size of 4. So in this case, we have tried to like fry 16 puris. So since it is the menu is in accordance, and all the readings which have been taken are in accordance with the family size of 4. So in this case, we have not fried 1 puri, but yes, 16 puris. And for that, the readings are given on the screen, where we can state that the induction is the most efficient in frying the puris, whereas the fastest being the infrared cooktop, which nearly about takes 13 minutes to fry the puri, but there is hardly any significant difference when we compare the parameter of time with respect to induction and infrared. And then talking about the electric deep fryers, they basically are the third efficient in terms of frying puri with energy unit of about 0.38 kilowatt hour, which is being required by for frying 16 puris. And we can state that frying puris on e-cooking devices is nearly 41% efficient then compared to LPG, as you can see on the as readings, that there is a vast difference when compared the readings of energy with respect to induction cooktop and LPG. So LPG takes about 0.43 unit of energy while frying those 16. Next slide, please. Okay, so now going on to the findings, and I would like to discuss these findings into detail when we will discuss the first parameter, which is time. And time could be accessed in two broad categories, which is the total cooking time or the total cooking duration. Vis-a-vis, the second important factor is the time efficiency, which is been attributed to reduce active user or supervision time. So I'll explain how these two are being monitored in the current study. So as you can see that the bar graph shows the various time which has been the time parameter which has been consumed by all the appliances against LPG, also along with the LPG, not against, but along the LPG with all the 6 dishes. So you can see, and the one bar which is in orange color specify the introduction of electric deep fryers, because electric deep fryers are specific to frying, and so they are only been included in the preparation of puri. So talking about the pressure cook, so when I talk about the total cooking time, so the different appliances are subjected, are efficient for performing different cooking processes, what we have observed in this study. So for pressure cook, we have taken specifically 2 dishes, which is steamed rice and boiled potatoes. And we have observed that they are both efficiently being made with respect to time efficient. They are being made with using an induction and LPG, followed by which we have found that they are efficiently made in the infrared and EPC. Coming on to the saute and pressure cooking details. So we have seen that the dals and khichdi, so what we have seen include a bit of saute process along with the pressurization process. And the induction is the most time efficient for both the dishes. So for saute and pressure cook processes, inductions are very efficient, followed by infrared. And then for the deep frying, so in this we have added a special appliance, which is the deep fryers. And in that case, we have found that induction is the fastest of all the appliances. And however, all the technologies have mostly similar times, where infrared cooktops being 70% faster than LPG for frying, for deep frying. And when I talk about the saute cooking, which is very specific to dry vegetables, which we generally make in our Indian household and kitchens. So here we have observed that EPC takes around 32 are generally 32% faster as compared to induction. But as I mentioned that we have manually set the pressure time to 1 minute. And when we have opened the lid of the EPC, we have observed that the vegetable is overcooked. So we are not able to attain the required consistency, which is there for the required consistency which is there. So in that case, we have found that with respect to induction, infrared cooktops and LPG, the total amount which is taken is about 33 to 34 minutes, which is not very a significant difference. Next, please. Then I would like to state about the time efficiency, which has been there through reduced monitoring or supervision time. So as you know that when we cook, so when we talk about LPG cooking, induction and infrared cooktops along with deep fryer, so there is continuous monitoring which is required either to stir the vegetable or to flip the puris. So for different cooking appliances, we have different techniques, and vis-a-vis we require some monitoring time for it. So with respect to all the 4 devices which are mentioned in the above segment, we observe that there is no potential gain with respect to in this particular time efficiency for the cook who is preparing the food. Whereas in the electric pressure cooker, we have observed that due to the automation and preset menu. So when we talk about the electric pressure cooker, I would like to bring the notice that although because of the presence of automation and presetting menu, uh, there is very less of consumer being intervening the cooking processes and everything. Whereas but it has the other side as well, because these electric pressure cookers are built on automation systems and had preset menus. There is the time which is being, so I have mentioned in the earlier slide that the cooking time is more. So I have mentioned about the natural pressure release process and also the preheating setting. So in both these cases, the device automatically takes its own time. It with once because it is been the EPC comes with preset menu. So once the menu is being set that what we need to cook and then the lid is closed. So after that, the process is entirely based on the automation and which is beyond any intervention of the consumers. So these are the processes which are also sometimes time consuming because when we use a manual cooker or the conventional traditional pressure cooker, so we tend to remove the whistle and the pressure gets released. But it's not the case in terms of EPC. So here, sometimes there is a time lag which cannot be controlled by human intervention. Yes, next slide, please. Now talking about the energy efficiency. So as we have discussed that electric pressure cookers are the most efficient and it generally tends to save 54% of energy while cooking a basic or simple Indian dishes like dal, rice, khichdi and boiling potatoes. Whereas, and why we say that, what is the principle of phenomena behind being EPC being the most efficient is that EPC generally tend to cook in closed systems and it able to trap the steam and pressure and tends to retain it due to insulation. And as a result, they are highly efficient. And when we talk about the induction cooking, it generally states that the range within which these 6 dishes are being cooked generally lies between 0.19 to 0.46 kilowatt of energy, which is very efficient when we compare it with LPG. And when we talk about the infrared cooktops, so we can say that infrared cooktops have the capacity or have the tendency or capability to keep a constant temperature. Vis-a-vis, they are very good for frying and they are second best efficient in terms of frying puris. And when we talk about the LPG, so the results state that is cooking simple dishes like dal, khichdi, and sabji, the energy unit which is being consumed by them are within the range of 0.32 to 0.79 kilowatt of hour, which is much higher as compared to the EPCs and the infrared. And with this, it states, and if I would like to highlight the order of the efficiency, I could say that the EPCs are the most efficient, followed by induction cooktop, infrared cooktop, and then LPG. But in case of frying, where we have used an additional device, I would say that the efficiency follows first with the induction cooktops, followed by infrared, electric deep fryers, and then the LPG. Next, please. Now coming to the third aspect, which is cost. And as we know that cost is directly proportional to the efficiency, I can say that since EPC being the most efficient, it have the maximum cost gains and it is like 50 to 54% cheaper than LPG. Then talking about induction, which is second best in terms of efficiency. So therefore, it is like 40% cheaper than LPG. Talking about infrared, I can state that being the third efficient in terms in the eCooking devices, it range between 15 to 30% cheaper than LPG. And when we talk about deep fryers, then 11% cheaper in the process, in frying process as compared to LPG. And when we talk about LPG, as I've mentioned that it is least efficient. And so here the range within which all the 6 dishes are being prepared is between 1.6 to 3.95 INR, which is much higher as compared to EPC and induction, making it the costliest fuel for preparing common dishes like khichdi, dal, rice, puris, and sabji. Next, please. Okay, so also I would like to bring another important aspect which adds into the cost, and that is the device and upfront cost. So as already been discussed earlier, that the electric devices in the Indian household may sometimes the use or the conversion or transition to electric devices may sometimes require a bit of revamping of the Indian kitchens, and also while using devices like induction, they require an additional or compatible utensils. Whereas now this problem is also being sorted by infrared, which is like infrareds are utensil friendly, but induction being the most common within Indian scenario. So it comes with an additional cost of utensils. And as you can see that this table gives, this table is there in the report, but just giving you a snapshot of what device and upfront cost could be, which includes the addition of 16 ampere plug along with some twitching in the wiring, because if we are using an induction over 1200 watts, then it does require an additional wiring. Uh, Along with that, the utensil cost, which is been included with terms of induction cooktop when we are using induction. So we have given a brief overview where we have written the average device cost, and during the left segment, the right segments, we have added that what comes the upfront cost after adding the device cost. So we can see that there's an extra EPC doesn't require any devices, and it doesn't require any utensil cost. So the upfront cost is not much as compared to what it is in the induction, where you can see that the basic average cost is around 1500 to 4500, which generally tends after adding the setup cost and the additional costs range about 3500 to 6500, including all the wiring, plugs, and the utensils which are compatible for induction frying. So vis-a-vis, we have given a brief overview of that, which has been available in the report. Next, please. Now, coming on to the last parameter, which is usability of devices. So these usability of devices is written in such a way that how it generally, as a user perspective, that what are the challenges, limitation, and the experience, overall experience while working with that particular device. So talking about the electric pressure cooker, I would say that they are very good and are very compatible for Indian kitchen, and long boiled dishes, one pot meal can easily be cooked using an electric pressure cooker. They are very good for pressure dishes and long boiled dishes. But while working with EPC, there are certain things which we need to keep in mind, and we have this observation that for stir frying and quick saute dishes, like what we did, the dry dish like aloo gobi, which we prepared in our study. So this can be prepared with EPC, but without closing the lid to avoid overcooking. And another is that the deep frying process is not suitable for EPC. We tried to fry puri in EPC, but what we have observed that instead of puffing, it becomes very hard, crispy, and crunchy, which is actually not the texture of Indian bread. So deep frying, what we thought is also not possible in EPC. Then coming on to the induction cooktops, the usability states that it is highly versatile electric cooking devices, and that offers speed, precision, safety, and it is very suitable and very common within Indian households. And we can also state that that induction cooktops are efficient with respect to time, and mostly are the most efficient in cooking majorly all the dishes which we have tried in the kitchen trials. Next, please. Okay, now coming on to the infrared cooktops, as we have mentioned that these are very revolutionized e-cooking devices, which are the USP of this device is that it is utensil friendly. It could be used, any utensil could be used on these infrared cooktops. And one main key aspect of this cooktop is that it uses radiant heating technology and are very well for processes like puffing the roti, roasting, and frying, because it tends for frying, it tends to maintain a constant temperature, which is very important for frying. Vis-a-vis, frying can very well efficiently be done in infrared cooktop. Also, it comes with a net or a grill with which processes like puffing the roti and roasting can very well be done. It because of the equal heat distribution, the uniform heat distribution, these difficult tasks can also like roasting and puffing roasting can be done very efficiently. Then moving forward to the electric deep fryers. So these deep fryers are very subjective to cooking, to frying, because they have the presence of thermostat, which actually maintains a regular and the uniform heat of the oil. And that is why the frying process can very efficiently be done, but they have a very limited use in the Indian kitchen. And we also face certain limited usability and some challenges, since as you can see in the figures, the deep fryers are rectangular in shape. Vis-a-vis, these rectangular shape require more volume or more quantity of oil, like 3 or 4 times of oil is being used for frying puris in this square shaped electric deep fryers as compared to wok, which has a circular or a flat bottom. Because of this circular shape, the oil requirement is less as compared to electric deep fryers. And also due to this rectangular shape, flipping of puris, because the puris are being fried from both the sides, so flipping also becomes a challenge because of the smaller surface area compared to a circular wok. So these are the challenges which we have observed, and we state that electric deep fryers are very specific to frying. Yes, please, next. Now coming on to the last point, which is conclusion. So I would like to state, which I already mentioned, that EPCs might save up to a can say 54% energy saving, and EPCs are ideal for large subset of Indian recipes like rice, dal, boiling, and one pot meal. Coming on to the induction cooktop, I would like to state that they are most efficient in terms of time, and the only constraint with them is the compatibility of utensils. Followed by which, coming on to the infrared cooktop, I would like to say that they are, because of the uniform heating, they are very apt for frying, roasting, and roti puffing. And they also have a USP of utensil flexibility. Coming on to the electric deep fryers, I could state that because of the presence of thermostat, they have controlled frying, but have a limited usability for Indian kitchen due to high oil requirements. And commenting on the taste, we have observed in the kitchen cooking trials that no major taste difference is there when the food is cooked on the electric devices as compared to LPG, indicating that e-devices could very well be used for preparing Indian dishes without compromising the quality. So yeah, with that, I would like to conclude my presentation, and I would like to hand over the Q&A and session to Jacob and Sheetal ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, Nay. Thank you for the presentation. It was very comprehensive. Uh, yeah, so we have some questions in the chat. We have one question from Simon Shrestha, and he asks about the subsidy provisions, especially to reduce the cost for inductions and cookware. At this point of time, there is no direct subsidy which is available on the electric cooking devices or cookware. So, yeah. Then we have another question from Mr. Manish. He is asking about the power rating for the EPC and induction cooktops which have been used. So to highlight that there are two types of electric pressure cookers which have been used. So there is a 3-liter pressure cooker and a 6-liter, depending upon the type of dish, because we mentioned that the study clearly talks about the quantity required for a family of four, and like we have the diversity in our kitchens, that's reflected in the study. So the 3 liter is 700 watts, and the 6 liter EPC is 1000 watts. The induction cooktop which is being used is 2 kilowatt, and the deep fryer is 2.5 kilowatt, and infrared cooktop is also 2 kilowatt. So I hope that answers your question. And I would just highlight one point over here is that whenever we are looking at the power rating of the devices, we need to also understand the fact that nobody is cooking at the maximum power rating at all particular times, because we often see in many studies and in calculations specifically which are going around at this point of time, where we see that, if you've used like, this wattage induction or infrared, you are actually using the, for calculation 100% power rating. But like we do for our LPG stoves, where we reduce and increase the, heat, in the same way, when we are cooking at induction cooktops and the any electric cooking devices, we have to reduce and control the power in the same way. And that's a very good flexibility that we get with electric cooking devices, that there is a very, very precise power and temperature control that we get. So I hope I've been able to answer that as well. Um, I think where we have one question with respect to seeking the presentation and the resource material. So we've already pasted the link for the full-fledged study, this which has been published. So it's out there, and you can have the detailed findings for your review. So that is there. So I think I cannot see any other. So again, yeah, so Simon Shrestha is mentioning that, can you share this presentation? We've already posted the link of the entire study. These were just the key findings from the study, but the study is very comprehensive and very detailed, and talks about the nuances regarding the different devices and the Indian dishes. So I would encourage you to actually go through the link, and you can have the entire study and refer to that at your this thing. So yeah, I don't think there is any other question which I can see. Jacob, would you like to share anything?
No, just emphasizing and echoing what you had mentioned in terms of yeah, it's incredible amount of work that went into the paper, and it's really good to see, and recommend colleagues looking into it in detail. It's very comprehensive, and looking at the findings, and it's very timely as well. I think, as you mentioned, Sheetal, to the potential ongoing shortages of LPG and the current macroeconomic situation from the current war in the Middle East, which comes to an end soon. But this work can help yeah, people within the sector make better informed decisions around cooking using the various different fuels. Yeah, I think excuse me, I think there's lots of interesting findings throughout the report around the energy efficiency of different types of appliances and compared to time efficiencies, and how behavior fits in and usability and so on and so forth. So yeah, I really recommend that people go out and look at the report and study it, because it's got some interesting things, and some of the things which haven't been flagged by Nay in her presentation, but you talked about earlier, Shita, about the cookware and some of the applicability of some different types of cookware, also very interesting. So yeah, there's lots of nuggets in there. So yeah, just to echo what you had said in terms of looking at the report, which is very good and comprehensive. And thanks again for the invitation.
You are on mute.
Thank you everyone for joining us today for this session. If you have any queries, we've already given you the contact details. You can write to us, and we'll encourage you to go ahead and look at the resources, and you can have the detailed findings in the study. And we will all meet again on 14th of May, which is the next talk series which is planned, and it's going to be again on a very interesting subject, which is enabling electric cooking for micro eateries, street food vendors. And the talk series will also have findings from a very big pilot study which has been conducted in different regions in India, and reflects on the ground realities for the street vendors and the micro food vendors. And it would be very interesting to see that what is the benefit that these vendors have been able to get when they have been able to transition to electric cooking. So I invite you all to register yourself for the next session, and we'll see you then. Thank you.